It's time for House to Home with your host, Clyde Hawsey, where you'll hear from local people who turn houses into homes all across the inland Northwest, and you'll learn how to do the same. House to Home is brought to you in part by River Ridge Hardware, Avista, and Rada Paint. Now, here's your host, Clyde Hawsey.
Welcome to another edition of House to Home. I'm Clyde Hawsey, your host. Joining me today is Tom Lienhard, and he is an energy efficient operation with Avista. And we are at a place today, every home is different, and this is a multi-level home, and you'll see and begin to identify, hey, even down in the lower level, we have some efficiencies. They're not quite the best, but they could be better, right?
That's true. We'll also get a chance to take a look at a gas furnace and the fact that they're using electric heat in a garage, that maybe it'd be a good thing to change to natural gas there. So these are the things we're going to go over while we're here.
And they even have a heat pump too, and that even is a different operation again.
Absolutely.
So again, let's walk on through it. Tom, let's begin and take a look. Where do we start? Tom, what are you finding here? Look at that. I mean, there's air coming in.
Yeah, well, we came over here to look at the sliding glass door, which is only about 2 feet away from this trim piece. And then it looked really good. Frankly, it was one of the best glass doors we've seen. But you can feel with your hand down there and actually feel the infiltration coming up behind this trim. So it's a case where the owner is going to need to pull the trim and see what they're seeing behind there, just so that we can get some idea of how it might be able to be fixed.
And this really doesn't mean that it is outside air. It could be air from the basement pulling upward, right?
It could be. We're just seeing the air is coming from somewhere here, and it's not a path that we would like. One of the things that we like to do is make the air go in a path that we want it to go in, because when it goes in a different path, it could be pulling itself past dust or dirt or things that you don't even want in your house. And so this is one of the reasons we look at things like that.
Well, now if you swing upward, now we're looking at these can lights up into here, Tom, and we can see the same issues here. Look at that. I mean,
right now here we got a warm outside, so the attic's probably already over 90 degrees.
Right.
And so what you see is the air coming down around the outside of these can lights. That's quite a bit warmer than inside. So,
and in the winter time, it'd be cold air coming in.
That would be cold air. Right now,
it's
warm.
To
be warm air.
Yeah,
you're right.
Okay. Let's go in that bedroom area. We were looking at one area and take a look at that.
Okay. Now we're looking down at the floor here in the master, and we do see some cold coming out of the register. Now the heat isn't on because we shut it all off, and there's no air conditioning, so we're just pulling a little cold out of that register. We'd expect that. What we don't expect to see is the bright blue line all the way across this floor, where air again is coming in behind that wood trim, and that's something we need to figure out what is happening there.
Well, here we have a tri-level home, and of course this could be again air from the basement, as we found in the kitchen area. Could be, right?
It could be, but it also could be where the two parts of the house go together. Yeah. And we might have a place outside where we could caulk to stop this from occurring.
Where the decking actually comes in. So,
correct.
And it's right below a window, so we have a lot of construction going on here.
Yep.
Tom, in the same area now, we're seeing that there is a plug-in underneath this window area, and the heat is coming in because it's warmer outside. But that could also be cooler in the wintertime, but it's because it's an outside wall, right?
That's correct. Now, we know we're going to get some infiltration around any electrical box. So there's a couple ways you can handle that. In the long term, the best way to handle it would be to pull everything out and see if you can foam around that box so that you can stop any infiltration to come in. A really low cost way of dealing with this would be to put a foam cover over these outlets so that you could try to stop some of that infiltration. And those are things we just give away to help people do that.
But that won't totally resolve it, but it will help it, is what we're trying to say.
That's right. What this customer found was part of the reason why their heating bill was so high in the wintertime was that the only way they had to heat their garage up was a 240 volt electric heater. And they have things that they want to keep in here. And so we believe it's a good thing for you to keep the stuff the way you wanted. So if we could switch to a gas heater in here, it would be a third of the cost of this. And then probably add some insulation to the garage doors. They are built in such a manner that you could add almost 2 inches of insulation panels inside their panels and still not lose as much heat out of here. So that's a suggestion that we'll probably make to help them with their energy loss.
Tom, we were inside talking to Josh about his air conditioner, and here we are standing next to it. Guess what? It's old, it's tired. All it is saying is to give me more power, right?
Right. It's also, it's a 3-ton, probably the size of the house could maybe use a 4-ton. But the thing that gives this away, and I think you need to look at your own house when this is happening, is it's 75, 76 degrees out here, and it's running full blast, and he's not able to pull this house down. We really should be designing for a 95 degree day, not a 75 degree day. And so that should give you an idea that if you're not making it, either the house needs to be fixed up, which we really don't see too much of in this case, or perhaps it's not quite as big as it needs to be in the first place.
Well, I want to point out that whenever you're looking at your electrical bill and you wonder if it's your furnace, your air conditioner, it's a combination of all these things put together, right, Tom?
That's true. And if you need to talk to your HVAC person, if this was a heat pump, you probably couldn't look at it and tell the difference. And so you have to know whether you're talking about an air conditioner or a heat pump. And so if you need to get help, get help. And those people who helped you put it in should give you the answers that you need.
Either that or call yourself at Avista, and they can help you walk through this process to understand it. Josh, thank you for letting Tom and I come in and do an evaluation on your home and seeing where some of the heat bills are going, and the cooling and also the heat. Tom, you've done some inspections, and what have you been finding?
Well, we've found a few spaces where we think we might have some infiltration, and we'll go over those with Josh. But first, I'd like to just thank him for letting us be here, and also maybe you might tell us a little bit about how long you've been in the house and what you may have noticed since you've been here that could be a problem that has something to do with your envelope or anything else in the house that makes you kind of uncomfortable.
Well, we've been here for a little over a year, so this is the second spring. So now that it's getting warmer out, I've noticed that it's warmer upstairs than it is downstairs. It being a basement, it's only obvious that it's that way. So it's a little harder to keep this cool up top here. So
You're finding that you have to adjust your lifestyle a little bit to fit what the temperature is.
right.
Does that same pattern follow even in the wintertime, or is it just...
Not really.
Oh, okay. So we have a definite variation. Every home is different, and every time of the year is different. And just because that room is cool over here today doesn't mean that tomorrow it may not change, right?
Right.
And the other thing we have to remember is it could be that the air conditioner is barely sized to handle the load, where the heater is sized to more than handle the load. And so you can't always count on the fact just because it's comfortable that you're this efficient as you'd want to be. You had talked about when we were walking around, you had talked about perhaps some of the things that you had done already to try to take away some of the load. You'd said you put some treatment on the west-facing windows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I put some tint on the windows a month and a half ago, and it really has made a difference. Mm-hmm. And when I was putting it on, I had one off, and one side it was definitely tell the difference with the heat from the one that I haven't done yet. So it was a considerable amount.
You know, one of the things, Josh, that we have noticed throughout the home as we've been looking at it with the infrared camera, that even the plug-ins, you know, some of those areas that you could actually, it isn't going to resolve all of your issues, but it's going to all add up to one little item here and one little item there. And even along the baseboards.
Right.
Now, this being a tri-level or a bi-level, shall we say, you may have air from down the basement coming up. We don't know, but things you need to check it all out. It isn't just dumping out in one area as we found in some other homes that we've checked on, right?
No, that's true. And a couple of other things you might think about doing would be to use you have a intake in your furnace to pull in outside air. Mm-hmm. And you might think about being able to open that up wide open with your fan on in the early morning to bring in cold air before it starts getting hotter outside. And then make sure that you close that down once it starts to get warm outside, so that you can not bring in hot air to add to the problem that your air conditioner has to overcome this.
I think that's a very important item, that we all have fans on our furnaces, electric or gas. Utilize that fan, because it's a low using electricity, right, Tom?
Right. Fan is way lower in energy use than a air conditioner or something that's going to be a mechanical cooling system.
And just leave it on 24 hours a day, you might say, in this time of the year especially.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you're already seeing the issues that you have with your home and working towards the solutions.
Right.
So kudos to you for
Thank you.
already knowing that stuff.
And in areas that you're not using, or certain rooms, you've got a lot of beautiful rooms finished off downstairs. I was noticing that you had some of the doors closed, and that's great, but where you have air circulation taking place, we've been counting your heat registers within your home. You're pretty well balanced for upstairs, and downstairs are about the same within 1 or 2. And the cold air returns, that's very important, because again, we always think of the door being really close to the carpet, but if it's up a little bit, that allows cold air returns, and that's very important also.
Yeah, in fact, if the air can't get back to your furnace, then it's not going to move to all the parts of your house. So if you find that something over on this end of your house, which there's no cold air returns for this end, if it starts getting uncomfortable, maybe cracking the door to allow that air back out into the center space might help it become more and more comfortable.
Now, I have a question. Do you have a heat pump or just a plain air conditioner?
Just air conditioner.
Okay. So what Tom is saying, at some of these rooms, you even could bring the damper and adjust them accordingly, because you don't need it so cold in the rooms. You only go to maybe once a week. But the rooms like your man cave downstairs, that one you may want to be a little bit cooler. And so we need to identify your lifestyle, and only you have that answer.
Right.
We can only tell you what's happening there that we can't control.
Yeah, but excellent work on what you've done so far.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. House to Home is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. House to Home is sponsored in part by our friends at Rada Paint, River Ridge Hardware, and Avista. Ask Clyde a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com.